Just a quick review. When we look at members of the same species interacting in a specific area, we refer to that group as a population. All of the organisms in this particular population will be members of the same species, sharing common characteristics. Other members of that species, not in the same area, wouldn't be part of this population. Additionally, some areas don't have just one species, so we refer to this as population 1. You might have other populations there of a different species. So, this is another species right over here, all of them combined in the same area. We could call this population 2 to distinguish it from other groups. If you take all the populations in a given area, keeping in mind there's flexibility in how you define that area or region and combine them, you get a broader view. So you're really taking all of the living things in a certain area. We call that a community of populations. Now, the community only consists of living things, the biotic factors. Biotic refers to the living things in a certain area, but if we want to consider not just the living things, but also the non-living things in that region, we use the term abiotic. Let me write that in another color for better clarity. So let's take the abiotic factors or the abiotic environment, which includes all the non-living components. Once again, we are sharing the same region, though how you define that region can be flexible. Putting all of these things together, organisms and the environment, we get an ecosystem. It could be a very small region, it could be a very large region, but it's made up of all the living things, the biotic factors, and the non-living things, the abiotic factors. This video covers the types of ecosystems you might have. Take a moment to think about it. And also, begin to think about how the different factors interact with each other, how there's a conservation of matter, where within an ecosystem, matter tends to go from one form to another. You also have a flow of energy. Energy tends to enter an ecosystem in form of light, and that energy gets transferred from one organism to another, and sometimes even involving the non-living things, eventually getting turned into actual heat. In terms of the types of ecosystems, there's a lot of variety seen there. There is a picture of a tide pool at Half Moon Bay, not too far from where I live. I visited the tide pools at Half Moon Bay, and you could consider one particular tide pool, both the abiotic factors, the water, and the rock there, as well as the biotic factors, the starfish, the sea anemones, microorganisms, and whatever else might be living there. Those combined, that could be an ecosystem. You might consider the beach, nearby coastal areas, or the entire region as an ecosystem. Again, it depends on how much you want to zoom in or zoom out. And you can zoom out a bit. This is the Amazon rainforest. You can consider the whole rainforest an ecosystem. Or maybe you want to study the ecological dynamics occurring in this region right over there. You could also consider that an ecosystem. You can think of what's happening in the river itself as an ecosystem, or maybe just one part of it. I'm referring to some ecosystems on land and others in water. That's a general way of classifying ecosystems. You could have an ecosystem on land, like forests, or in water, like lakes and rivers. In that case, it's aquatic. Within aquatic ecosystems, you can have salt water or partially salty water, which are called marine. The main marine ecosystems we think about are the oceans and similar bodies of water. Also have freshwater ecosystems. Like if you are in the upper Amazon, that is fresh water that is flowing. So we could say fresh water refers to non-salty water, even though rivers are large and there is a lot of fresh water around us, and we obviously need fresh water to live. Most aquatic ecosystems are marine and do not involve fresh water. Fresh water is a very small subset of Earth's water systems. These are just a few examples. Even your whole body or parts of it can be viewed as ecosystems. You could look at just a small fraction. If this is my hand here, for example, and I draw a little square on it, you could consider that a tiny ecosystem. You can think about the different bacteria and other microorganisms present and how they interact with the non-living things like the air, the oil on your skin, and the dead skin cells. You can also consider how they interact with the living skin cells and with you. Now, Since we're focused on classifying ecosystems, one common approach is to categorize land ecosystems into various types based on their characteristics. And right over here, we have depicted the major types of land ecosystems found on our planet, along with the regions where you might typically encounter them. And these various types of land ecosystems, which differ in climate, vegetation, and wildlife, are known as biomes. As you can see from this diagram, tropical forests are right there. This is the Amazon rainforest. Similar forests can also be found in Africa, Southeast Asia, and parts of Central and Southern North America. You have boreal forests, found in more northern latitudes, as well as savannas, deserts, tundras, chaparrals, polar regions, temperate forests, and temperate grasslands. These categories are helpful for thinking about the general types of ecosystems that would find in those regions, and it's typically most determined by temperature, moisture, the climate and the terrain, and the types of minerals that you would find there. It tends to be a good genetic indicator to predict what the environment and life will be like. But even with that said, there could still be a lot of variety over there. For example, the Sonoran Desert is right here in the southwest United States and northwest Mexico. This is a desert, and deserts are found all over the planet. While they might be similar in many ways, each one has its own unique characteristics, but they won't have the exact same climate, abiotic factors, or biotic factors. For example, I am now going to show you pictures of the Sonoran Desert and the Rock Desert on the island of Boa Vista. Boa Vista is right over there, a small island off the coast of Africa. As we can see in these diagrams or pictures, you don't need to be an expert to recognize that both of these are deserts. They both look dry, there's not a lot of water here, but they are also very different. The Sonoran Desert appears to have much more life compared to the Rock Desert. It's aptly named the Rock Desert because, at least to the naked eye, it seems like all you can see is rock. So, biomes, once again, it's a very rough, high level way of classifying land ecosystems. But even though the same biome can be very different, two things that are categorized in the same biome could be very different.